This is Colin Dixon with nScreen Media, and I'm speaking with Steve Harnsberger. Steve is founder and CEO of Universal Search and Discovery. Steve, welcome.
Thanks so much, Colin. Pleasure to be here with you.
So, Steve, we're going to talk about, I think, probably one of my favorite topics, which is being discovery. But before we get there, let's get some context here. Tell us about Universal Search and Discovery. How did it get started, and what does it do?
Well, actually, we were working at the company called Guidebox, which was one of the search and discovery apps to find content wherever it lives in the streaming universe. And we went to Roku. I actually went to Roku and said, hey, we've got all this data from 300 or 400 crawled streaming sites. It would be great to onboard that to Roku. And they said, no, we don't need more data, but you seem to understand feeds a lot, and we'd like to have universal search work. This was 2016, where there were only about half a dozen apps that were being searched on Roku. And so they had built a friction-filled process, a separate process, and they said, can you help us? And they had a project, it was called Search 100. And we were hired to go out and onboard the feeds in the proprietary spec for Roku. And we were like, that's cool. We got 100 customers. Roku's paying us. Let's go do Apple and Amazon. And we had a business to help make the proprietary feeds for each of the streaming ecosystems.
And so that brings us to the real problem that unified search is supposed to fix, but in all of the devices, but actually creates in the industry, right? It causes other problems in the industry. So tell us about that. Tell us, it creates problems for both consumers and for SVOD providers, right?
Well, it's across SVOD and AVOD. The issue is that we used to have 500 channels on cable, and now we have 10,000 apps on Roku or more. And so people are lost. The consumer problem is people don't know which app has the program they want if they're looking for a movie or an actor. So they're searching. That's the consumer product. And the search is supposed to look across the whole ecosystem and show them whatever they want to watch. But the industry is only allowing about 100 apps on major platforms. Roku might have 500. They're certainly more open. And that this is limiting the choice so that only the largest apps, and certainly all the big apps, are in search. Netflix, Hulu, Paramount Plus, Crackle, all of them. But the smaller ones, because there's a separate process that they're not even aware of potentially, they are not being onboarded to cross-app search. Sometimes they're being blocked by the platform. Sometimes they're just not aware.
Right. So getting on these universal search platforms is not easy. Otherwise, Roku wouldn't have asked you to help take that on. So just talk to us a little bit about that problem, the problem the SVOD and AVOD providers face in getting their content findable through the universal search.
Well, if you really look at it, the search algorithms are inside of Roku, Apple with Siri, Amazon with Alexa, and Google with Google Voice. Those are the top four. And each one has a secret algorithm that works to show which app to watch things. Maybe it's going to show a subscription. Maybe it'll show AVOD. But they're not open processes, and they require a special string of code to configure the metadata so the search engine can actually find it. And that onboarding process includes making a proprietary feed to a different spec for each platform, using a different tool, working with a different onboarding tool, and setting up S3 buckets or doing different things. So it's like a whole new technology project that you have to do as an app for each ecosystem. And that's why we're dealing with 5% of the apps that have really done it out of the total number of apps.
Right. So this is having a pretty big impact on the industry, right? It's making the smaller providers almost impossible to find for consumers, and it's making them invisible, which is death, right? If you can't be found, you can't be watched.
For the small providers, I think it's the number one problem they face is lack of awareness. People don't know about an independent app's name. They know the name of a title, however, or a star or whatever, so they can search things, but they don't know them. And this lack of awareness is really inhibiting the small and hurting the smaller providers much less than the larger ones, because they all have their own teams or they work with somebody like us to get their data configured. So the small ones, they just don't exist. If Alexa or Siri can't find their title, then they're never being sent someone to go stream their content.
Yeah. And what's the impact? Tell us about what's the payoff if you can get in those unified searches.
Well, we've been doing a pilot program where we set up apps on Roku and we run it for people to show the impact on new app installs. You can even do the number of clicks on search. And we saw last year we did 3 or 4 of these, and in every case we were seeing Reverie, which is an app in LA, LGBT content. And on Roku, in 30 days, they saw a 500% increase in their new app installs, which is evidence that the titles are known and the channel is not. So this increase in app installs is all about discovery. It's all about subscriber acquisition, and search is the lowest cost subscriber acquisition tool that you could use. And so we've done others where the streaming minutes on one went up 700%.
Wow.
50,000 minutes a month to 350,000 minutes a month. So that's directly proportional to ad revenues if it's an ad-supported app. So search works. We know this. We just can't tell you how much because it depends on if it's a movie, a TV, or a genre, which is more popular. And so we can only test what comes out, but in every case, we've seen it work.
Very good. Very good. So if people want to know more about you, they can just come to universalsearch.io, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And we, as I said, we will set up apps and demonstrate the results working with different genres. We're working with some news apps now. We're working with some really interesting SVODs to test the subscriber acquisition cost. But AVOD is absolutely the best because there's no friction. You install the app and stream. So that's where you see the biggest impact from search.
Very good. Steve, thanks for spending time with us. And I hope you can come back and give us an update.
All right. Thank you. Take care. See you later.
This has been Colin Dixon with nScreen Media.